How do Satanists view the concept of the soul and hell?
The general satanic idea is, if you were to look at the benchmark concept, the soul is really a dead entity when they hit the dirt. Myself personally, I disagree with this. The soul for me is an ever-transmigrating force that permeates the universe, that can be a part of the entire whole. And Satanism, if you were to talk with a hardcore LaVeyan Satanism or so on that would, literal word antics of the entire precept, they say, it is completely now, the material is real, and there is no soul. Myself personally, I do not accept that. I see things differently, but there are, in the general steadfast definition, that is it, that the soul doesn't exist, that when you die it's dark, and that it's over. And there are other religions, too, that have espoused that. Certain Egyptian cults felt that same way, especially in dealing with other Setians.
And so, therefore, there is a transmigration of the soul, you would see, so there's no worry about eternal torment or anything like that. But what's the ultimate? Is it a simple eternal return, or is there a way that eventually a soul can break out of the whole cycle, the Ouroboros, or whatever you want to call it?
In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, they speak of this quite often, and I reference this. And the Book of the Dead gives sort of an insight into how that struggle for the soul begins when death commences. In seeing that, can you break free from death itself? I think you can do it. I think you can break from the cycle, remain whole, remain focused, and push forward. It is very hard to do because the utter confusion of death itself and the other entities that are out there to devour your energy and to push you forward or backward or any direction, it's overwhelming. It takes an entire lifetime of preparation for that kind of conflict. And that may or may not make any sense, but that's how I feel on it.
And Winter, tell us a little bit about the thesis of your book and why did you decide to write it? In other words, what exactly is the Satanic Paradigm and this Satanic consciousness that we're evolving towards?
The Satanic Paradigm, I wrote it as I had seen within LaVeyan Satanism and Satanism in general, especially since LaVey's death of 1997, there's just been a lull in Satanic Society. Not a lot of relevant material coming forward. There is kind of general boring academia and analyzing subjective things that are regurgitated over and over again. This was my inspiration for writing the book. So I've written it, and in writing it down, I had found that there was actually a very mystical, satanic mystical consciousness to the idea of it, and what time it actually hit me to write it was around 9/99. It was in September of 2009, and it became very relevant to me. And in my experience and in my studies and in speaking with Stan LaVey and a series of other people that are really in the know on this topic, I had come to the conclusion that 999 was extremely relevant, that it is a transformation of society, one being that 999 was the last set of sequential numbers that we're going to experience in our lifetime, probably for the next 100 and so years, and that it also kind of clicked along with previous predictions by other occultists and so on and so on, in looking at the 1966 date, which was extremely relevant, and looking at 1988, which was extremely relevant on the charts, and then looking at 2009, which is very relevant. The timing of the book was, in all honesty, random. Why it happened at the 999 point? It just did, and it ended up being very supernaturally charged. It's still very mystical to me right now. Experience is not over with, and it's very to grapple. But in looking at satanic consciousness, we could say that satanic consciousness is the world in general, as it, I guess you could say, grows more evil. in a sense, if we look around today, the world has changed into an about-face of from Christian antics that have gone on, and into a series of other things. Although their grip is not completely lost, and it's actually more pervasive than it's been in the past years. It's actually stronger than it was. Its strength is gripped and loosened from time to time. Overall, the consciousness is the permutation of our universe by the forces of darkness and by a general psychic mindset on the part of humanity as a whole. That is generally what satanic consciousness is.
You also quote LaVey as saying, "I believe in God. He is just far too indifferent and disinterested in the affairs of mankind." Do all Satanists have such a lukewarm view towards Jehovah and his Son?
I think that in taking that line that LaVey did, I think they do. I think they would believe that the entity per se is like, we have a painting, yet where is the painter? You know, it would be illogical to assume that if you have a painting, how did it become transcribed? It had to be created by a painter. Obviously, the painter is gone. He is elusive. He is indifferent, or he is a watchful, aware, but not really taking a complete role within humanity or the creations that are in the billions. It's a very wide open topic. It's been studied philosophically, scientifically for the past 200 years especially, and innumerable hundreds and hundreds of different texts and diatribes. Overall, I think in making that statement, I think that Satanists do have that general volition about it and about the Son of Christ. Incidentally, most, if not all, do not accept Christ as anything more than sort of, unfortunately or fortunately, as a charlatan who was really kind of self-enfeebled to die for his own cause, to create some kind of force for himself, to propel some kind of created religion, a very passive-aggressive trait on his part.
Yeah, and I find it interesting because as you write in your book, your view is very much with a lot of what is written in the Talmud and what a lot of Kabbalists see Jesus as, which is basically a failed necromancer, somebody who just couldn't go all the way.
Correct. Not to be just a sense of blasphemy, and not to be like, let's just keep beating on a dead horse, because really Christianity and Jesus Christ in general is a dead horse to myself personally. It's not relevant. I mean, the churches are closed. The concept is dying generally. It's being beat on by the general sense of logic. The sheer logic of it is actually killing that concept. Unfortunately, other religions near it, which are much more dangerous, I feel, like Islam, is much more a threat to the indoctrination on a global scale. They wish to indoctrinate people into their regime or else. They have women in burqas. They prevent people from becoming educated. These are all primary problems that Christianity does not suffer from. And I think that in the future it's going to become more predominant that the Islamists are going to become more extremist because they want to shove the Quran down people's throats. That is something they openly say they wish to do. They target any cartoons that are drawn about them. They target any reverse literature against them, and they're a billion-plus strong religion. They're their largest religion in the world, and they are mirrored, despite what they'd like to believe. They are mirrored almost down to a T by Christianity, by a self-proclaimed son of Allah, son of God,